Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Star Wars Rebels episode review. This one's going to be for Season 2, Episode 3, Always 2 There Are. Once again, apologies for the lighting. This is about the best I can do to record this video today. And yeah, so that's out of the way. It's probably going to be like this for a little bit until the days start to get a little bit brighter at night. But yeah, this episode I thought was pretty good. I don't think it was as good as the first two episodes of the season or the Siege of Lothal, of course, but it was a really good, solid kind of episode to start off. That kind of episodes past the opening arc. There was some really nice stuff, just like the kind of subtle thing that wasn't really the main part of the episode, but getting to see what Kanan and Rex's kind of relationship is like now that they're past the whole Kanan hates clones thing, and that it's interesting because Rex respects the Jedi, but he is now in this position where he is so much kind of Kanan's superior, and he's worked with Jedi that are kind of so kind of high above Kanan that he is kind of more experienced almost in terms of like a Jedi commander leading a kind of group that he can give Kanan advice on this sort of thing. And they played off this whole idea of is Ezra disciplined? Is Kanan disciplined? They didn't do too much there, but it was just nice to see them kind of what their relationship is like now. It's not completely like super friends, but it's kind of like this more kind of jovial, like they can make a little bit of a joke about each other, but there's still respect there, and they can just kind of speak more clearly around each other, and I kind of like what they're doing there. I'm interested to see more of it. But the majority of the episode focused on what the main plot was, which was Rex had information about an old abandoned Republic medical station where there were still some supplies that they could use. So they sent Sabine, Zeb, and Chopper, and then Ezra went along to avoid the arguments of Rex and Kanan. And so that's our kind of group for this episode. And what happens here is basically the introduction of the rest of the Inquisitors into the series. That's basically the kind of what this episode accomplished. We got this idea that the Inquisitor that was killed last season was the Grand Inquisitor, and he was above these two that we see in this episode, who I think are like called the second sister and then the fifth brother. I don't know if they're going to explain how exactly the Inquisitor system works, but it seemed like a shock to basically all of the characters that there were actually more than one Inquisitor. And I think they're probably going to eventually explain this as these were some of the Force sensitives that Palpatine had like the Separatist capture and train as dark assassins and stuff like that. It kind of, I think it's meant to reference back to the episode fairly early on in the Clone Wars where I think it was Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka had to save some baby Force sensitives from this facility that Palpatine had on Mustafar. And they saved them, but it was clear that this thing that was going on for a bit longer. So I think that's what most of the Inquisitors are. They are young potential Jedi who were taken by the Emperor instead. So I don't know if they're going to go into that and explore the kind of origins of the Inquisitor program or whatever it is. But I liked what they did here in that it established that these Inquisitors, they're not just going to be carbon copies of the first Inquisitor. It was very clear in this episode that these two are fairly inexperienced. They try and make it kind of come across like they're super confident and super high level, but it was very clear as the episode went on that they were trying to prove themselves to get the title of the new Grand Inquisitor. That they weren't as strong in the Force as he was. They weren't as skilled with the lightsaber as he was. And what this is going to allow us to do is allow Ezra to potentially, as he kind of trains up, to fight them potentially one-on-one, because he put up a decent fight here, but obviously the fact that there was two of them was a big issue. But when Kanan goes on the mission with Ezra, I think they'll be very easily able to take on one Inquisitor, potentially two if they have the whole group there to back them up. and especially if Ahsoka's there, they can definitely take out these guys. So I'm really eager to see what they do there, and that yes, they're threatening, of course, in their powers, and that they all have dual bladed lightsabers with the kind of spinning action, and they can seem to be fairly strong in the Force, but they're more on the level of a Kanan, which makes me more and more eager to see how powerful Ahsoka is at this point in time, having left the Jedi Order towards the end of her kind of time as a Padawan. You know, you could tell that she was probably pretty much ready to take the trials at that point. So how much more powerful is she, and would she be able to take out one of these guys? But what I liked about this was that, especially with the female Inquisitor in the episode, who was voiced by Sarah Michelle Gellar, I liked that once she took the mask off, it was very clear that she's fairly young. She's trying to prove herself here. She gets a little bit frustrated with things, and she isn't just this kind of perfect villain character who never makes a mistake. That these are very much more on the level of our other characters. So it was really believable when, like, Zeb kind of did some tactics, you know, kind of referencing what Rex kind of thought him earlier on in the episode. You can win fights with more than just kind of brawn. He was a bit more intelligent here, and he managed to engineer a situation where they could get out, despite Sabine and Ezra both being captured in the episode. So there was some kind of very nice, I suppose, power level stuff that went on here, that if we get introduced to maybe even a couple more Inquisitors, it's going to allow us to have these fights where potentially our heroes can get fairly good victories against powerful opponents without them having to maybe potentially defeat Darth Vader every week. So when Darth Vader comes back in, it'll be very clear that he is so much more above every character in the show. And the only, I suppose, character in the cast right now who could potentially put up a fight is Ahsoka, but we even don't know how powerful she is at this point in time. So there's that. We didn't get to see, I don't think the lightsaber fights were incredible in this episode. It was just kind of a few like bits back and forth, and Sabine firing some shots. Definitely this episode is more about just the introduction of these two Inquisitors, that they're not fully on the same page with each other. They're all trying to get the title of Grand Inquisitor, and then just, you know, the episode doesn't really like accomplish that much. Okay, they get out, they get some of the medical supplies. They're now going to inform Ahsoka and the rest of the rebel commanders that there are more than one Inquisitor, and it's just establishing that there's so much more to their opponents than they originally thought. So, very successful episode overall. I don't think there's a massive amount to talk about in terms of the specifics of most of the episode that happened at the medical station. You know, definitely, like, I still want to get to know Sabine a lot more. I'd like to get her backstory. Characters like her, this was a good Zeb episode, though I still feel like I want to know him a lot more as well. So there's still a lot more that the series needs to do, and I think very much flashbacks, telling us more about these characters, who they are, how they came to join the Ghost crew, is important to do that with. Because it kind of highlights how little we know about Sabine and Zeb and stuff like that. That Ezra's been kind of so much of a focus, Kanan has been as well. We don't know a lot about the other characters, so I really want them to kind of fix that. But for what it was, this was a solid episode. You know, I don't think it will ever be remembered as one of the best of the series, but it did some important things, setting up the series going forward. We now have more Inquisitors. It's hinted at that there are even more than these two. And what it just means is that there's going to be a lot more lightsaber fights in the series going on, and that it's not just, you know, one or two characters that have lightsabers. There's now like 3, 4, 5 plus, so that's good. So yes, I was very happy with this episode. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode and my review, what I said. But other than that, thanks for watching, and bye.